The Galactic Council had gathered inside the Grand Chamber of Unity Prime, the most secure space station in the galaxy. It floated silently above a blue star, glowing like a jewel in space. Leaders of 23 alien species sat in a perfect circle around the round crystal table. Some had fur, some had scales, others floated without legs, but all were silent, calm, and serious. They had come to talk peace. For the first time in 100 years, no weapons were allowed in the chamber. Only words. The Emperor of the Draconian Empire, a tall lizard-like creature with golden armor, sat at the head. His voice was deep and his stare sharp. "Let us begin," he said in perfect galactic common. Just as he lifted his hand to speak, again a loud bang echoed across the chamber. The huge double doors flew open. A human walked in. Not just walked, he stormed in. His black boots hit the floor with purpose. His clothes were wrinkled, his jacket half-zipped, and a long scar ran down his cheek. In one hand, he held a metal datapad. In the other, nothing but his confidence. The guard stepped forward, ready to stop him, but the Emperor raised a hand. "Let him speak," he growled. The human didn't slow down. He marched right through the middle of the chamber, past the silent alien leaders who watched with wide eyes. No one spoke. No one had ever interrupted the council this way. Then the unthinkable happened. The human walked straight to the Emperor's side of the table, then slammed his dusty boot on top of the shining gold surface. The whole room gasped. The crystal table glowed red for a moment, warning of aggression. The Emperor's bodyguard stepped closer. One of the insectoid diplomats fainted. The silence turned cold and sharp, like the edge of a blade. The human didn't care. He looked the Emperor straight in the eye. "We don't have time for games," he said. "I told your aides, I told your generals. No one listened." The Emperor stared at him, unblinking. "Remove your foot," he said slowly. "Now." But the human didn't move. "If I take it down," the human said, "you all need to listen. Not to your pride, not to your rules, but to what's coming." The alien leaders exchanged glances. Some whispered. Others looked at the human with disgust. To them, he was rude, uncivilized, dangerous. But then one of the tech diplomats, a small creature with 10 glowing eyes, tapped his device and spoke. "His credentials check out," it said. "He is human ambassador rank, Alpha Red. That's top level." The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "You disgrace this council." The human dropped his datapad on the table. It slid across the glass and stopped right in front of the Emperor. "Disgrace?" he said. "What's coming will make your whole empire look like a spark in a supernova. And if you don't believe me, then go ahead, throw me out. But when your stars start dying, remember this moment." The room fell into a heavy silence. No one knew what to say. The Emperor looked down at the datapad. His claws hovered over it, then tapped the screen. A hologram lit up. It showed a black zone of space, empty, quiet. Then lights appeared. Systems blinking out. Stars going dark. Ships disappearing. All without warning. A deep, echoing sound followed in the recording. Not a voice, not a signal. A pulse, dark and cold, like something alive. "What is this?" one alien asked. "Evidence," the human said. "It started near Sector 94. We thought it was a wormhole. Then it moved. Not like a storm. Not like gravity. Like a mind." The Emperor frowned. "This could be fake." "You think I slammed my foot on your holy table for fun?" the human snapped. "That thing is moving toward your border. Maybe you'll believe me when it eats your moon." The silence now felt different. It wasn't cold. It was heavy with fear. The alien leaders looked at the hologram again. Ships, both alien and human, were being swallowed by darkness. No explosions, no survivors. The human stepped back, finally removing his foot. "I'm not here to start a fight," he said. "I'm here to stop one. Or maybe all of us die trying." He turned to leave. Before he reached the door, he looked over his shoulder and added, "You've got 2 days. After that, it won't Matter who sits at this table." Then he walked out, leaving the council in stunned silence. Outside the chamber, his earpiece buzzed. A voice spoke quietly. "Ambassador, they took the bait. Now we see who wants to live." The human didn't smile. He just kept walking, because he knew. The real war hadn't started yet. The council chamber remained quiet long after the human left. The hologram still floated above the golden table, showing the same dark signal swallowing stars and ships like dust. None of the alien leaders spoke. Some stared in shock, others in anger. Only the Emperor remained calm, his sharp eyes still on the datapad. His golden claws tapped the table slowly. He did not like being threatened, but something in the human's voice had felt real. One of the diplomats, a creature made of mist and glass, finally spoke. He could be lying. Humans are known for drama. Another, a three-eyed lizard from the outer rings, hissed, "He insulted the Emperor! That's enough reason to throw Earth out of the council." But the tech creature with the glowing eyes clicked nervously. "The signal, it matches a reading we picked up last week. We thought it was a black hole, but it moved. Black holes don't move like that." The Emperor raised his hand. Silence fell again. "Bring the human back," he said. The guards rushed out. But it was too late. The human had vanished. His ship had already left the docking bay, heading toward the edge of council space. He had said what he came to say. Back in his ship, the human sat in the captain's chair, staring at the empty stars. His name was Commander Rourke, and he had been Earth's top ambassador for 7 years. But this mission was different. It wasn't about peace. It was about survival. His co-pilot, a young AI drone named Mika, floated beside him. "You think they'll listen?" "No," Rourke said. "Not yet." "Then why show them the file?" Rourke sighed. "Because the clock is ticking. If we wait for proof, we're dead." Behind them, the ship's system beeped. A new message appeared on the screen. "Sector 95, colony lost. No survivors. Signal spread, confirmed." Rourke's jaw tightened. That was the second colony gone in 3 days. Back at Unity Prime, the Emperor stared at the screen in front of him. The human's data was still playing, and now something had changed. A second signal had appeared in the same system. This one was brighter, sharper, almost like a reply. The Emperor didn't believe in fear. He had fought in 9 wars, crushed 2 rebellions, and once faced a death beast with his bare hands. But this was different. There was no enemy to fight, just darkness. Just silence, just vanishing stars. Later that night, he met with his top generals in a private chamber. They argued. Some wanted to prepare fleets, others wanted to arrest Earth's ambassador for disrespect. But one of his most trusted advisors, an old warrior named Track, said quietly, "If the human is right, we need him. He's not a soldier. He's a message." "A message?" the Emperor asked. "Yes," Track said. "Earth knows something we don't. The humans saw this first. Maybe because they are closer to the edge. Maybe because they're always watching. But if he risked his life to slam his foot on your table, it means they're desperate." The Emperor sat in silence. He didn't like humans. They were loud, reckless, and too emotional. But they were also survivors. They had built their empire in just 300 years. And no matter how many wars they lost, they always came back stronger. He stood up and looked out the window. The stars looked calm, peaceful. But now he wondered how many of them were already gone. "Send a message to Earth," he said. "Tell them the Emperor of Draconia wants answers." In deep space, Rourke's ship picked up the signal. "Mika," chirped. They responded. Rourke didn't smile. He just nodded. "Told you the table trick would work." Mika floated closer. "So what now?" "Now we go back to Earth," Rourke said. "They're going to need to see what's under the moon." Mika paused. The vault? Yes, Rourke said. It's time. As the ship turned toward the Sol system, another alert flashed. New signal detected. Sector 96. Mass disappearance. Star dimming confirmed. Mika's lights dimmed. It's spreading fast. Rourke leaned back in his seat. Then we're already late. And in the dark space behind them, something moved. It didn't glow. It didn't hum. It didn't scream. Just watched and waited. Because the war hadn't begun yet, but it was coming. Fast. The stars above Earth looked peaceful. But deep underground, hidden below the moon's surface, something very old and very dangerous was waking up. Commander Rourke's ship landed on the moon base quietly. The white towers of Earth's military station stood tall, glowing with soft blue lights. No media, no civilians, only silence and soldiers. Rourke stepped out of the ship with Mika floating beside him. General Hart, Earth's highest-ranking defense officer, was waiting. She didn't smile. You slammed your foot on the Emperor's table, she said, crossing her arms. Rourke shrugged. He needed to listen. You're lucky he didn't slice it off. I'd rather lose a foot than a planet. Hart sighed and motioned for him to follow. Together they walked into a hidden tunnel beneath the base. Security bots scanned their faces. The air grew colder the deeper they went. Finally, they reached a black metal door with no buttons, no locks, just a scanner shaped like a human hand. Rourke placed his palm on it. The door opened. Inside was a large, dark chamber. In the center sat a sealed cube the size of a truck, covered in warning signs and old Earth languages. Red lights blinked slowly on its corners. A low hum vibrated through the floor. This is it, Hart said quietly. The vault! It's been locked for 89 years. Mika's lights turned yellow. What's inside? Rourke answered without looking away. Project Silence. Back in council space, Unity Prime shook with tension. Alien leaders were still arguing. Some believed the human. Others called him a liar, a trickster, or worse. But none could explain the strange energy signals now spreading from Sector 94 to 96. Entire systems were going dark. No trace, no escape pods, no distress signals. The Emperor stared at the reports. He knew what war looked like, but this was different. This was quiet. Too quiet. Then it happened. Unity Prime's lights flickered. For just 3 seconds, everything turned dark. When the power returned, half the council's screens were frozen. One of the main systems showed a live feed from a deep space satellite. The feed showed stars blinking, one by one, like someone was turning them off. Then a message appeared on screen, but no one had sent it. It wasn't in any known language. It was a pattern. A rhythm, like a drum beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Pause. Then again. It repeated. The tech diplomat gasped. That's the same signal the human showed us. It's here. The Emperor stood. Send a warning to all border systems. Tell them to retreat. Now. But before the message could leave the station, the satellite feed went black. Completely. As if something had swallowed the signal whole. Back on Earth's moon base, Rourke entered the code to unlock the vault. Hart watched him carefully. Are you sure about this? No, he said. But we don't have time to be sure. The cube split open with a hiss, revealing a silver pod inside. It floated slightly above the floor, humming with strange energy. Symbols on its side glowed in a soft purple light. This is alien tech, Mika said. Not human. Rourke nodded. It was found in deep space 90 years ago. We kept it hidden, even from the council. Hart crossed her arms. You think this thing can stop what's coming? I don't know, Rourke said. But whatever it is, it was built to fight silence. That's what the old notes said. The pod suddenly lit up. A small hologram appeared above it, showing a star system, then a black cloud slowly moving in. The same pattern flashed again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Pause. Then a word appeared in simple letters. Awaken. Mika. Beeped in alarm. It's recognizing the signal. It knows. Rourke looked at Hart. Tell the council we're not lying. Tell them it's already knocking at our door. But at that very moment, Unity Prime's communication system went dead. No calls, no messages, no way in or out. The council was cut off. Inside the chamber, alien leaders panicked. Ships were sent to check nearby space, but none reported back. The tech diplomat cried out, "They're jamming us! Something is jamming all deep space links!" The Emperor stood tall, voice booming. "We need the human back, now!" But they didn't know. The human was already 2 steps ahead. Back in the vault chamber, the silver pod's lights began to spin faster. The ground shook gently beneath them. Hart grabbed Rourke's arm. "What is it doing?" Rourke didn't blink. "It's waking up." He stepped forward, then whispered, "Let's hope it remembers who the real enemy is." In the cold black of space beyond Sector 97, something massive moved. Not a ship, not a creature, but a shadow. It spread like ink in water, and it was listening. To every signal, to every heartbeat. Because it wasn't hunting ships. It was hunting voices, and the galaxy was full of them. The silver pod in the moon vault rose higher, spinning slowly in the air. Its glow turned brighter, almost white. Rourke, Hart, and Mika stood still, watching it carefully. None of them had seen anything like it before, not even in the secret files. "Is it alive?" Hart asked quietly. Rourke didn't answer. He was staring into the swirling light, now pulsing from the center of the pod. It looked like a storm inside glass. It moved like it was breathing. Then, without warning, the pod spoke. A voice echoed through the chamber. Deep, layered, not fully. "Human. Confirmed signal. System status, emergency. Hostile silence approaching. Defense protocol Omega initiated." Mika's lights turned red. "It's activating itself." Rourke took a step closer. "Can it fight it?" The pod replied, "Enemy, non-material. Effect, total communication death. Threat level, absolute." Hart narrowed her eyes. "What does that mean?" "It means," Rourke said slowly, "this thing wasn't built by us. It was built by something that's already fought the silence. Before," the voice continued. "Defense options: 1. Activate core. Warning. Core activation may draw enemy attention." Hart turned to Rourke. "If we wake it fully, we light a flare in the dark. They'll come faster." "They're coming either way," Rourke replied. "This is our only shot." He placed his hand on the pod. "Do it." The pod glowed bright white. The floor beneath them shook. The vault's alarms started flashing. Red. And far away on Earth's orbit, satellites picked up something new. A burst of energy not seen in over a century. Back in Council space, Unity Prime was falling apart. Panic had turned to chaos. Ships were trying to leave, but none could jump into hyperspace. Something was blocking the lanes. Something huge. On the Emperor's command bridge, his best scout ship managed to send back one last image. It showed stars fading. Not blinking. Fading, like memories being erased. Behind the darkness, something moved. Slow. Cold. Without sound. And then the image froze. The scout ship vanished. No explosion. No message. Just gone. The Emperor stared at the screen, his voice low. "This is no weapon. This is death itself." Suddenly a call came through, a direct signal from Earth, a secure line. The human had returned. Rourke's face appeared on the Council's emergency monitor. "Listen carefully," he said. "We activated the core." Some alien leaders shouted at him, "You fool! You've doomed us all!" But the Emperor raised a hand. "Silence. Let him speak." Rourke's voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. This thing has fought the silence before. We found it inside an old wreck near the edge of our galaxy. The ship was ancient, dead, but this pod was still alive, still waiting. Waiting for what? The Emperor asked. For the signal to return, Rourke said. And now it has. Behind Rourke, the pod floated higher. Energy waves were pulsing from it now, reaching deep into the ground, into old satellites, into secret tech Earth had hidden for decades. Everything it touched started to glow. This is our only chance, Rourke said. We can't outrun the silence. We can't hide from it, but maybe we can fight it. The Emperor's eyes locked with Rourke's through the screen. If this fails, then we all die, Rourke said. Simple as that. Back in the moon vault, Mika's sensors flared. Incoming signal. It's here. Sector 99 just went. Dark! Rourke turned to Hart. How long until the pulse is ready? 10 minutes, she said. Maybe less. They didn't have 10 minutes. Suddenly the chamber lights flickered. Then everything went black. No power. No airflow. Just silence. Then they heard it. A hum. Soft. Deep. Like something pressing against the edge of space. Like a breath, but colder. The silence had found them. Mika beeped in panic. It's here, not outside, inside the system, Hart. Pulled out a plasma pistol, though they all knew it was useless. What do we do? The pod suddenly lit up again, brighter than before. The voice returned. Pulse charging 92%. Do not move. Stay connected. Rourke stood still, even as his heart pounded in his chest. Outside, Earth's orbit flickered. The sun dimmed for a second. Something massive passed between Earth and its light, but it was invisible to the eye. Only machines could feel it. Only silence could carry it. And still, the pod kept charging. Back in Unity Prime, systems flickered again. The Emperor looked up as the Council's main lights dimmed. One of the elders whispered, "It has begun," but the Emperor clenched his fist. Then let the humans finish what they started. On the moon, the vault glowed like a star. Rourke stepped forward. Come on. The countdown flashed. 9%. 100%. The pod exploded with light, and then a pulse shot through the moon, through Earth, through every station, every satellite, every ship still running on old human tech. A signal. Not sound, not words, but memory. And far away beyond Sector 100, the silence paused. For the first time, it hesitated, and Rourke smiled. Because now it knew. Humanity wasn't going to run. It was going to fight. The pulse from the moon spread fast, faster than light. It was not just energy. It was information, a message, a warning, a memory of war, recorded inside the pod long ago. And the moment it touched deep space, the silence reacted. Back in Sector 100, the stars blinked again. But this time, they came back. The black fog that had swallowed so many systems slowed down. It shifted, like it was confused or curious. The pulse had worked. For now. Inside the moon vault, Rourke fell to his knees. The silver pod had dimmed, its energy spent, but it had done its job. Hart checked her wrist console. Systems coming back online, the signal pushed it back, only a little, but it worked. Mika spun in the air, lights blinking fast. I'm picking up data from the pod. A lot of it. Maps, warnings, coordinates, something called the last beacon. Rourke looked up. Show me. A new hologram lit up in the air. It showed a strange shape, like a machine built into a star. It floated at the edge of a galaxy. Long gone. Dead. Burned. The words under it read, Last beacon activated only in final hour. Hart frowned. What is that? Rourke stood slowly. I think it's our last hope. He stared at the map. It was far. Beyond council space. beyond even the oldest human colonies. It's where the silence was stopped before, he said, or maybe where it was only slowed. Mika's voice turned quiet. There's a risk. We don't know what's waiting there. Rourke looked around. We already know what's waiting here. On Unity Prime, the Emperor stood in his war chamber. The image of the energy pulse was still playing on the screen. His generals stood silent, watching Earth's move with new eyes. They had always seen humans as loud and reckless. Now, they saw them as something else, dangerous. One general whispered, "They had this weapon the whole time." But the Emperor spoke firmly. It wasn't a weapon. It was a warning from another, time. And they were smart enough to keep it hidden. Until now. He turned to his tech advisors. Can we track the signal? Yes, my lord. It's headed for a place called the Last Beacon, the Emperor finished. He nodded once. Prepare the fleet. Back on Earth, chaos had already begun. News had leaked. Civilian networks started to buzz. People asked questions. Why were the stars flickering? Why did satellites go silent? And why were all human ships being called back to Sol? Rourke knew the truth couldn't stay hidden. So he stood before the global leaders in Earth's Grand Hall. The meeting was closed door, but the weight of it would soon reach every corner of humanity. We are not alone, he said. And we're not safe. The silence is real. It doesn't talk, it doesn't invade, it erases. He pointed to the map. We have one place left to run, one place that may hold the answer. But we'll need every ship, every mind, every piece of tech, and maybe every ally. The leaders argued. Some wanted to hide, others wanted to fight. But in the end, they all agreed. They had no other choice. Earth would send a fleet, and Rourke would lead it. Back in the moon vault, Mika finished decoding the last message from the pod. It was old, maybe millions of years old. The voice was different, but the warning was clear. If you hear this, we failed. The silence learns, it returns. But maybe you will do better. Light the beacon. Let it see. Rourke stared at the words. They didn't win. They just bought time. Hart walked beside him. Let's make their time count. Within hours, Earth's first wave of ships began to rise. Large cruisers, old war vessels, science crafts, even mining ships rearmed for defense. It wasn't the biggest fleet, but it was human, strong, fast, and angry. Unity Prime sent a message to Rourke as the ships launched. The Emperor's voice filled the screen. You lit the fire, human. Now we... Follow the flame. Rourke nodded. Then we stand together. In deep space, far beyond any map, something shifted. The silence had felt the pulse. It knew what it meant, resistance, and it began to move again. Faster now, not hiding, not stalking, hunting, but for the first time in its long, dark existence, it would face a fleet, not just of ships, but of voices, of fire, of humans, and the war had only just begun. The fleet moved through deep space like a line of sparks in the dark. Hundreds of ships, big and small, followed the path shown by the pod. Their destination, the Last Beacon. No one truly knew what it was. A weapon? A trap? A tomb? But Rourke didn't care. He only knew one thing. It was built to fight the silence. And that meant it was their only chance. Inside the command ship Iron Resolve, Rourke stood in front of a large window. Stars passed by silently. But space didn't feel peaceful anymore, not after what he had seen. Hart entered the bridge, holding a data pad. We just lost contact with 3 more outer relay stations. No explosion, no escape pods, just gone. Rourke didn't flinch. It's chasing us. Yes, she said. And it's getting faster. Mika floated beside them. We estimate the silence will reach the beacon area within 4 days. We'll arrive in 3, if we push the engines. Rourke nodded. Push them. Behind them, the crew worked in silence. Pilots, engineers, young soldiers, all of them human, all of them afraid. But none turned back, because turning back meant death. Far behind the fleet, in council space, Unity Prime had launched its own ships. Hundreds of alien vessels now flew a different path, heading to meet the humans at the beacon. Some alien leaders were still angry, others still didn't trust the humans, but they had seen the stars fade too. And now, they understood. If the humans failed, the silence would come for them next. Back aboard Iron Resolve, Rourke stared at the map. They were entering unknown territory. The last system before the beacon was quiet. Too quiet. Any signs of life? He asked. Mika scanned again. No planets, no stations, just one signal, old and weak, coming from a shattered moon. Hart looked up. That moon's not on our charts. Rourke made a decision. Change course. I want to see what the silence left behind. Minutes later, a small team entered a shuttle and landed on the broken moon. It looked like it had been cut in half. Craters everywhere, rocks floating in zero gravity. But at the center of it all stood a single black tower, half buried, still glowing faintly. Inside the tower they found carvings, not human, not alien, but something older, much older. Rourke ran his hand across the stone. Symbols glowed where he touched. Mika translated slowly. It says, "Here we stood, here we fell. Let the next ones burn brighter." Hart turned on her flashlight. On the far wall, burned into metal, was a shape, a symbol, the same symbol seen on the silver pod back on the moon. "This is a warning," she said. "Whoever built the beacon tried to stop the silence here first. And failed," Rourke finished. "But maybe they left something behind." They downloaded all the data they could and returned to the ship. There was no time to waste. As the fleet continued, the stars around them grew thin. The light from behind seemed distant, faded. Even Mika's sensors began glitching. "We are entering the edge of the null zone," Mika said. "No signals come in or out. Only the beacon remains online inside this zone." "Then we keep going," Rourke said. Eyes open, weapons ready. 3 hours later, they saw it, the last beacon. It floated inside a dead star, its surface cracked and glowing like slow fire. At the center was a huge machine. Giant rings spun slowly around a black core. White energy moved between the rings like lightning. And around the machine were ruins, ships, stations, even bones. A graveyard of the past. Rourke stood in awe. "What is this thing?" Mika's voice was quiet. "This is a memory weapon." Hart's eyes widened. "A what?" "The silence kills by erasing," Mika explained. "It wipes minds, voices, signals. This beacon does the opposite. It remembers, and it broadcasts that memory." Rourke understood. "If the silence spreads darkness, this spreads light." Mika nodded. "But it needs to be awakened, fully, and the last time it did, it burned an entire system." Rourke looked at the dying star around it. "I can see that." Suddenly, alerts flashed. "Silence contact. Detected," Mika shouted. "There. Here." Outside, the black fog approached the system edge. Not fast, not loud, just slow, quiet, certain. The final moment had come. Rourke stared at the beacon. "Can we power it?" "Maybe," Mika said. "But it needs a key." Rourke pulled something from his coat. A small crystal, the core from the silver pod. It pulsed in his hand like a heartbeat. "Will this work?" Mika scanned it. It was made for this. Hart stared at the incoming wave. "If we activate this, there's no turning back." Rourke walked toward the beacon control deck. "We're already too far in." As he placed the pod's core into the beacon's heart, the old machine woke, lights spun, rings turned faster, and the stars began to burn brighter. The beacon was alive, and it was ready to speak. The beacon came to life. The black rings spun faster, sending bright energy into the cracked star around it. The fire in the core turned white, like lightning locked in glass. All across the fleet, human ships trembled. Energy readings spiked, alarms blared, but Rourke didn't move. He stood on the platform inside the beacon, hand still on the pod's core. The machine had accepted the key. Now it was asking for something else. "It's scanning me," he said quietly. Mika's voice came through the earpiece. "It needs a memory source, someone to share what must be remembered. It needs you." Hart's voice cracked through the comm. "That's insane. If it connects to you, Rourke, you might not come back." He didn't answer. He just closed his eyes, and the beacon opened his mind. Suddenly, Rourke saw it all. Memories, his own, and others not his. The first planet swallowed by the silence. The final stand of a forgotten species, firing light into the dark until their last ship was gone. The builders of the beacon, tall, silver-skinned beings who had loved music, stories, and color, all erased. But their final hope had survived. The beacon, and the idea that maybe someone else would be brave enough to light it again. Rourke's mind burned. Every memory he ever had, his childhood, Earth, war, peace, laughter, loss, it all flowed into the beacon. The machine turned red hot, then white. Then it screamed, not with sound, but with signal. A pulse shot out in every direction, faster than anything natural. It wasn't just light, it was memory. Billions of voices, names, moments, lives, every one of them screaming the same thing. We existed. We mattered. You will not erase us. The black fog that had entered the system stopped. It trembled. The fleet watched in silence. The silence had no voice. But now it had something worse. Resistance, and the beacon's scream tore through it. Ships watched as the fog began to crack. Tiny, breaks of starlight inside the darkness. The cracks grew larger, and from the heart of the beacon, beams of white fire struck out, like a heartbeat exploding into space. One hit the leading edge of the silence. For the first time, the silence screamed back. It pulled away, slowly, then faster. It wasn't just being pushed, it was being burned. The memory beam wasn't just light, it was a reminder of pain, of beauty, of war, of all the things the silence had erased, now coming back. And the silence couldn't kill what had already been shared. Hart stared in disbelief. "It's working! It's actually working!" Mika's lights flashed fast. "But the beacon is overheating! The energy levels are beyond safe limits!" On the platform, Rourke collapsed to one knee. Blood ran from his nose. His hands shook, but he didn't let go. He couldn't. If he did, the memory stream would end, and the silence would return. The beacon spoke to him now, not in words, but in images. "Keep going. Just a little longer." Hart shouted through the comm. "Rourke, pull back. It's going to kill you." He smiled, eyes glowing faintly from the beacon's light. "If this is how I go," he whispered, "it's worth it." The silence roared now, louder than anything they'd ever heard. The space around it collapsed in on itself, but it kept pulling back, farther and farther, until it vanished into a pinhole of blackness. Then, it was gone. Totally. Quiet. For a long moment, no one said a word. Then Mika's voice came, soft. "The silence has left this galaxy." The fleet didn't cheer. They just breathed. Alive. Safe. Hart rushed into the beacon control room moments later. She found Rourke lying still on the platform, his hand still touching the core. "Rourke!" she shouted, running to him. "Come on!" "Say something." He opened one eye, weak but smiling. "You're late," he said. She laughed and cried at the same time. "You idiot," he chuckled. "Did it work?" Hart looked out the window. Stars were shining again, brighter than ever. "Yeah, it worked." Later, back on Earth, the message from the beacon was broadcast to every known planet, every species, every colony. It said only this: we remember, we resist, we remain. And on every world, people stood and listened. The silence might return someday. It might find a new way to erase. But now it knew something it hadn't known before. Humanity doesn't forget. And when the dark comes again, they will be waiting.